This question comes from John. He says, who do you want in the 2018 free agency class? So this is a great question. There's a lot of superstar caliber players in this upcoming free agency class. If you want a quarterback especially in this upcoming free agency class, somebody is going to get a pretty dang good one. There's a lot of them, and we're going to go through that right now. So we're just going to go through the list of the most notable players. First is Kirk Cousins, who's likely not going to get franchise tagged again. Either he's going to get signed to a long-term extension, or he'll go elsewhere to play. Next is Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, he's probably going to get franchise tagged or signed to a long-term deal. Jimmy Garoppolo, expect him to be signed to a long-term deal. Drew Brees, he's going to be a free agent for sure. Heavily rumored not to be a Saint for any longer, so who knows where he'll go. He's obviously still in the prime of his career, even though he's 38 years old. He's still performing at a high level. Next is Sam Bradford. I don't really like Sam Bradford, but he's going to be a free agent. Next is Jimmy Graham. He's had his ups and downs in Seattle. Really can't stay healthy. He's definitely somebody that if he isn't extended, to be cautious about because due to injuries. Tremaine Johnson, the corner for the Rams, I love him. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the NFL. Great man-covered corner. He's great against the run. He's a ball specialist, a ball hawk specialist. He gets his hands on balls, and when he does, he picks them off. He reads quarterbacks pretty well. He does everything really, really well, and he's, like I said, the best thing he does is just a really good man-covered corner, which is something that the Dolphins look for in corners, big, long, physical corners. Tremaine Johnson fits the bill. The Dolphins were heavily rumored to try to pick him up this past free agency and or trade him when we were trading for the Rams. That was heavily rumored as well to get Tremaine Johnson. So the Dolphins have connections to him. So that'll be an interesting thing there. I love Tremaine Johnson. I think if you guys think we don't have any corners, a lot of you do. A lot of you don't like Xavier. I love Cordrea, but Tremaine could be our franchise cornerback if we so choose to select him. Next is Malcolm Butler. He's having a up and down year, but he's another really good man coverage corner. I don't think he's a number one corner just because he's matched up with the number one, the other team's best receiver. He really hasn't done a great job, so that's something I guess I would rather have Tremaine Johnson if I had to pick the two. Next is Teddy Bridgewater. A lot of Dolphins fans love Teddy Bridgewater. Obviously, he was born in Miami, Florida, I think, or somewhere in Florida. Grew up here. Obviously, former teammate of Devontae Parker. They had tremendous chemistry at Louisville. If you're a particular fan that is looking for a quarterback, that could be something you guys root for. Ezekiel Anza from the Lions, really good defensive end when healthy. He also has health issues. Larry Fitzgerald, he's likely to retire. Terrell Pryor there's something wrong with. I don't like him I don't think he's a very good receiver. Alshon Jeffrey, I don't expect him to return to the Eagles. Howie Roseman, more or less said that this is definitely, the run to the Super Bowl. So I don't expect a lot of those Eagles to be on that team after this season. Sammy Watkins, I expect to still be a Ram. Sheldon Richardson, he could be a good addition to the team. I like where Jordan Phillips is, and I like where Devon Godchaux is. I really don't think that's a road we need to go down. Obviously, Juice Landry is one of the headliners of this 2018 free agency class. He could be. I hope he returns. Nate Solder, that's an interesting prospect there. Road to go down. Tyler Eifert, if he didn't have health issues, that would be a big time free agent. And the Bengals really don't. I mean, they re-sign their own at times, but they're not known for it. They let go of Andrew Whitworth in free agency, so I wouldn't be surprised if they let go of Eifert just because of the injury history. I just wouldn't be surprised. All of these players, I think something that the Dolphins need more than anything is a franchise tight end. So Jimmy Graham and or Tyler Eifert might be a road to go down, but ultimately I think Tremaine Johnson, if I had to pick out of the entire group, I would pick Tremaine Johnson. I still believe in Tannehill. I think he is the future of this franchise. That's just my opinion. I know some of you guys would go down the quarterback road. If I were to go down the quarterback road, if you had a gun to my head, I would say Kirk Cousins and Teddy Bridgewater would be the top two prospects. Garoppolo is going to be a 49er. I don't really like Sam Bradford. Drew Brees is a very interesting one. I still think he has a lot left in the tank. If you were to go to a team with a really good defense, he could lead them to a Super Bowl ring. We have a really good defense here. I think if he were to come here, that would be a very interesting way to end his career, obviously. But for long term, Kirk Cousins, Teddy Bridgewater. I would go with Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins is having a really good year. I think he's having his best year because the talent around him is not as good. If you guys remember, I said that when we were talking about Kirk Cousins before, I said it would be it's going to be interesting to see how he performs with a less talented roster. And he has really performed well. And, Gruden, Jay Gruden, has done a tremendous job of coaching that team with less talent and really getting the most out of his players. But Kirk Cousins really, he makes everything go. He's the quarterback. He's had a tremendous season with bad offensive lines at times because of the injuries, terrible receiver play, like awful. He's really lived off of tight ends and running backs. Some of the throws he made against some of the best teams in the NFL, Seahawks, when they were healthy, he played them against their defense with nobody on the offense. He made tremendous throws in that game. You think about some of the throws he made in the Chiefs game, and at the time they were red hot. He almost won that game single-handedly, passing the football. I had to pick one, Tremaine Johnson. The rest of them, like the big names like Ezekiel Ansah, Tyler Eifert, Jimmy Graham, I would love to have a franchise tight end, and that might be a road Adam Gase goes down. But they have a tremendous injury history. I don't really see them starting a 16-game season, and somebody's gonna pay them a lot of money. I don't think we really need to do that. So who knows what? That's just a little bit more of a murky situation. But the quarterback class is very interesting. You could make an argument that the free agency quarterback class, let's just say they are all free agents and everybody can get a crack at them, is better than the NFL draft class. Not only that, but Phillip Rivers is heavily rumored to be a free agent as well. Obviously, Eli Manning might not be a Giant after this season. So that quarterback class is very, very good. It's going to be very interesting to see what teams get who, because there's a lot of really good quarterbacks in this free agency class. So if I had to pick one, though, it would be Tremaine Johnson. If I had to pick a quarterback, it would be Kirk Cousins. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below, and let's move on to the next question. This question comes from Ronald. Tell me which players you think I get wrong. Who, with their pay and poor play, need to go? Tell me why they should stay. Andre Branch, Jermon Bushrod, Ted Larson, TJ McDonald, Kenny Stills, Jordan Phillips, Mike Tannenbaum, Matt Moore, Devontae Parker, Ray Maluga, and Kiko Alonso all have to go. Big contracts, poor play. Well, Jermon, he's going to retire after the season. He's made that clear. Ted Larson, I do not expect to be on this roster after the season, especially the way he's performed so far. He's played one game, but I think the fact that he tore his bicep, he has a terrible injury history. He's only played, I think, 16 games, a 16-game season one time in his NFL career. That's not good. So I don't expect either one of those two players to be on the roster after the season. TJ McDonald obviously just was signed to a long-term deal. We've only seen him in one game. If Matt Burke needs to understand. I know that TJ and Rashad are very similar players, and the scheme that Matt likes to run obviously is the same as Vance Joseph's, but he loves to blitz the safeties because it helps our run defense. I think he needs to lay off the blitzes with TJ less and just do it with Rashad, because I think TJ, one of the two, need to be a sole free safety. I think it'll make the defense better, because I don't think Rashad is that great of a free safety. I think he's a box safety. I think that's where you really need to utilize his talents in coverage and in run defense more. I think TJ McDonald is a better free safety than Rashad, and they do very similar things when you blitz them off the edge either way, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't disguise anything. Rashad is possibly the best. I think he's the best blitzing safety by far in the NFL. Definitely the most physical. So if TJ was to play more free, I think the defense would benefit from that. So I think TJ McDonald we still have a lot to we'll see. But if you have two really good safeties in this league, which is TJ has been in the past, and obviously Rashad's one of the best in the league, your defense can be very, very, very good, especially if you team that up with the front seven. So we've seen that with Philly. They don't have the greatest corners in the world, but they have two really good safeties in Malcolm Jenkins and Rodney McLeod, and then they obviously have a tremendous front seven. So we can do some similar things there, but I think TJ needs to play more free. Again, both safeties, more or less, they're both strong safeties, but I think TJ is a better free than Rashad. So that I still think we have a lot to see from TJ, but again, both similar players there. Andre Branch, I don't say he's had a disappointing season, because when he's on, and he hasn't really been healthy the last 3 weeks. He's been on the injury list a lot, and he hasn't got a lot of playing time due to health issues. He's interesting. I like Charles Harris a lot, and more than the less. I mean, Andre's a better run defender at this point in his career, but Charles is not that far off. And they're very similar size and builds. I still like Andre Branch. I think he brings versatility to the defense, a lot of versatility to this defense, and he fits like a glove in terms of scheme. Because we love to drop back D ends, and he's built like a linebacker. He looks like a linebacker when he stands up. So he's athletic like one too. So I like Andre Branch. I think we should keep him around. He does have a big contract, so I don't expect him to go. So that leaves Kenny Stills, Jordan Phillips, Mike Tannenbaum, and Matt Moore, Devontae Parker. Well, Devontae, he's still on his rookie deal, so he's gonna stay. Kenny Stills long-term deal. I don't expect him to go. Mike Tannenbaum, I don't expect to leave. Ray Luka's gone. He's on a 1-year deal. He's a vet. He was just here to replace Raekwon due to injuries. Kiko, I don't think he's going anywhere. Let's see, who else is left? Jordan Phillips, that's interesting. I don't know. That's a great question. Jordan is if he does come back, is he on his rookie? I guess he is on his rookie is he still on his rookie deal? Is he on his rookie deal, or is he going to be a free agent? I think he's still on his rookie deal. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure he's still on his rookie deal. So, I'm getting Jarvis's in his draft class mixed up, but Jarvis was his second-round pick, and so is Jordan. So I'm assuming that was DP's draft class. It was, I think so. So Jordan's still on his rookie deal. I don't expect him to be going anywhere. So yeah, you're leaving out Juwan James, who I think needs to be extended more than anybody. And I hate to say it, but he probably, I love Jarvis, but him and Jarvis, it's really going to come down, he's a very valuable position, Juwan James. If we could somehow retain them both, that needs to be number one priority, because I think they're both huge cornerstones of this offense, and they're both really, really Pro Bowl caliber players. So those two need to be the point of emphasis going into the offseason. This question comes from Magnus. He says, I have a couple of questions. I don't think the defense is as bad as people think, but I will say that Xavier Howard showed he's not an NFL starter. 1, should we look into drafting cornerback fits from Alabama? 2, the offense is bad. How many offensive guards do we need to pick up in free agency and draft to make it stout? 3, we definitely need to keep right tackle Juwan James, but for how much? And lastly, how many stars do you think we're going to move on from this upcoming offseason? Well, to start with the first one, Xavier did not have a great night. He's had a very up and down season, but at times I think he's played very well. I think collectively as a defense, the entire defense played terrible. The front seven did not play like they normally do. The linebackers are on a cold streak these last 3 weeks. So all three levels of the defense really didn't play well. Other than the safeties, I think TJ and Rashad had their moments, but they also had some bad moments because there was a lot of busted coverages on a Monday night, and especially with Rashad, and it continues to happen with him with miscommunication, especially on tight ends. I just talked myself out of it. Safeties really didn't play that well either. So every phase of the defense, other than Cordrea, didn't really give that great of an effort. And I don't mean like they didn't go out there and they didn't try. I mean they just did not play well. So yeah, it's hard to blame it all on one player. He didn't have a great night, but so did 10 of the other guys on the field. Sue had one of his worst games of his career. This defensive line has struggled with when he gets neutralized, when he gets double teamed, and especially on pull double teams, our offensive line really struggles. And win blocks, like all of those three things, for some reason, our defensive line struggles. That needs to be corrected, and a lot of teams are doing that to us in the running game, and it works. Like we just get gashed. So that is something that schematically we need to figure out. So it's not all on Xavier. I think if we played good defense as a team, Xavier would look 1,000 times better. I can tell you that right now. Not like everybody else was playing well, but Xavier continued to give up third down conversions. Most of their third down conversions were thrown behind the line, and our linebackers and the second level of our defense couldn't come up and make a tackle. So that's not on Xavier. Yeah, he did give up a touchdown to Devin Funchess. on a back shoulder fade. That at that point in the game was clearly we were getting pounded. So it really didn't matter at that point. So the second question is, should we look into drafting quarterback fits from Alabama? It's tough to just go ahead and just say, yeah, Xavier's just not the guy. It's tough for me to say. There's 7 games left to be played. That's a lot of football. We'll see how he performs for the last 7. To really just say, okay, yeah, we need to spend a lot of high-end resources on a corner. I just need to see him play for the rest of the season. The offense is bad. How many offensive guards do we need to pick up in free agency and draft to make it stout? There's not a lot of really good offensive linemen in this year's free agency. This past free agency was probably the one to go out and get some. But in the draft, obviously, there's a couple notable guys. The kid from Notre Dame that I cannot remember right now. Notre Dame is famous at this point for producing offensive linemen. That's a really good road to go down. And it would cost a first round pick, but I like that. I like that move. So if we could just get one franchise guard, whether that be it's probably going to most likely be in the draft. I think the offensive line will be much improved. Right now, we just don't have one guard. Juwan James. So how do we need to keep Juwan James? Yeah, I think we should just franchise tag him, which is hopefully what we do. Either that or franchise tag Jarvis, and then sign Juwan. I don't know how that's gonna work, but I don't know how much that's gonna cost. I think franchising Jarvis costs like 14 mil or something crazy like that. I don't know how much it costs for Juwan. So you guys are gonna have to let me know that down in the comment section below. But yeah, I think we need to keep Juwan for sure. And how many stars will the Dolphins will move on from in free agency? I don't know. I mean, I guess the most likely one to go would be Juice Landry, and I don't know. If it was up to Adam Gase, I really don't believe that he would be gone. That's going to be very interesting. But all I can tell you is the top 2 priorities need to be Juwan. They need to be Jarvis. Those are 2 pillars of the offense. It's going to be a really interesting offseason because there's a lot of talent on the offensive side of the football in terms of free agency. Teams that are hurting for certain positions could make franchise-changing moves and drastically change the direction that their team is going in because of the caliber of talent that is available because of the obviously the most important position on the field is quarterback. So that's going to be really interesting. But we'll see. I mean, Jarvis is a question mark. Juwan's a question mark. I guess you could look to those 2 to see if those are the stars the Dolphins choose to move on from. If so, that's just a terrible move because one of the 2 need to stay. So that is going to be it, guys. I am Skyxter1083. The reason I am ending this short is because I took a very long time to answer these 3 questions. I know there were only 3, but usually I don't take this long to answer individual questions. But these are some deep diving in. Like, I had to get in here to answer these. So I apologize that only 3 questions got answered. Remember, all of your questions will be answered in the podcast. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hopefully you guys will listen to the podcast. And I'll see you guys in the next one.